Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Les Freres Heureux, the only Frasierin podcast in the Frasierin world.
Mm-hmm. It's about Frasier.
It's all about Frasier.
We're talking about Frasier.
We're Frasierin. I'm Frasier. You're Frasier. We're all Frasier.
Frasier.
There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. See, Brendan Fraser getting a lot of awards. Mm-hmm. Everyone calls him Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
That winds me up.
It really, it annoys me.
It's Fraser. Like me. That's my name.
Like you.
Yes, I am Fraser.
Yes, and I am Ewan.
Yes, you are. Like McGregor. I was thinking,
like Ewan McGregor.
Ewan's quite an uncommon name as well. I mean, so is Fraser.
It's not particularly, yeah.
It's very Scottish. It's
definitely a Scottish name.
Very like.
I was one of 4 Ewans in my
there was
class.
A lot of Ewans
in high school. There were a lot.
But then I was thinking, like, a lot of people will know Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
So it's not spelt the same.
Yeah,
it's the same.
He spells it wrong.
He spells it differently.
He spells it wrong.
But it's the same pronunciation. So if people are thinking like, oh, who's this? How do I say his name? It's like that, like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, we are back for the penultimate main series episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
How about that? Keep talking about how we're almost there. Now we're actually almost there. Although we had some pretty interesting news this week.
We have
several casting updates for the new show, including Nicholas Lyndhurst.
Nicholas Lyndhurst, which is a very weird one.
From Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of an American audience Only Fools and Horses has.
I imagine very small, if any.
Yeah.
Only Fools and Horses was in the late 70s into the 80s. It was
into the 90s, was it
into
not?
the 90s, or I probably did actually run longer than I thought it did. And they had Christmas specials.
They had all the specials
like every
up
year,
until like 2000s.
even after
they had all the like the one-offs and
even after this. Yeah, the show actually stopped. But yeah, it's set in London. It's very Cockney.
It's very Cockney.
Yeah, weird casting choice, but like, I mean, he's playing an English character. It's not like he's playing an American character.
You know that the GIF from Django Unchained with, with Leo DiCaprio, where it's, what is it he says, like, you had my interest, but now you have my attention.
Yeah.
In that very
very
southern accent.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Like, yeah, okay.
It's definitely not what I expected.
Not at all.
I'm not against it. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a problem.
But if anything, it'll give us an opportunity to do some more episodes in a year's time, maybe,
whenever it comes out.
Who knows? But we've still got some episodes of the original run, I suppose.
They did also they've recast another casting announcement.
Oh, actually, sorry, that's right. Yeah,
they've recast Frederick.
Yeah,
so we know that Trevor Einhorn's not coming back.
He's a fireman now.
Is he?
Fire person.
Is
there a gender neutral
firefighter?
Firefighter, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Apparently his plot synopsis is that Freddie drops out of school and wanted to become a firefighter.
But fair enough.
Do you not read the article?
No, I don't think I actually did.
I
I've
can't
just
remember
seen
the
a couple of
name.
I've seen it wasn't someone that I recognized.
No.
I didn't think to write it down.
But they they're playing Freddie and apparently he's a firefighter.
Yeah. I think I've said before that I quite liked the idea of if they were ever to do a revival and it was going to focus more on Frasier and Frederick's relationship. I really wanted them to do like it kind of skipped a generation and Frederick grew up to be really similar to Martin and a lot more kind of working class. And I think it would, if he had grown up to be a cop or something, but cops are bad cops, so we're gonna make him a firefighter instead. That's much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as close to, the services as you can get without actually being a cop. So, yeah, interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. So, but until that is all filmed and finalized, who knows how far down the pipeline it is at the moment, we have Disc 3 of Season 11. The latter half of the very last season. We start with the Anne Who Came to Dinner. You might remember Anne Hodges from our previous disc or the first disc?
First disc
of the season.
Yeah.
In the placeholder, Frasier goes out on a date and has to suffer through this awful woman.
Yeah.
And then he tries to back out of the date and go and find Miss Wright at another table with Kenny, and then she finds out, and it's all very awkward and horrible and not very enjoyable to watch.
Yep.
The Aunt Came to Dinner actually pleasantly surprised me a little bit, I have to say. I think Anne is not nearly as insufferable as she was in The Placeholder. She's not the most exciting guest star, but I think her sort of obtuseness. I don't think obtuseness is a word.
No.
But I'm going with it.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more charming the second time around, which is really not what I expected at all. I expected her to be even worse. But I don't know, I think it works better in this episode where they're trying to like tiptoe around how weird she is rather than having to like suffer through it.
I can see that, yeah.
So basically, Frasier has no insurance. He has no home insurance. Martin forgot to mail the form away. So Roz recommends Anne to do his home insurance. She has to come and appraise it and whatnot. And he's hesitant, but then decides he wants to go ahead with it. She comes by. There's that sort of classic, oh, this is awkward, ha 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 moment. And then she slips on Martin's mayonnaise. That's not a sexual thing. He drops some mayonnaise on the floor and she slips on it.
Yeah. Terrible.
That was my first note, was Anne slips on Martin's mayonnaise.
Martin's mayonnaise. Daddy's brown sauce.
Daddy's brown sauce. So she slips and falls, and I don't know if she like breaks her leg or fractures it or whatever, hurts her leg, and Frasier basically worries that she's going to sue him. She has a history of just suing people because she's in insurance and knows how to get away with that kind of stuff. So he offers her to come and stay with him for however long it takes for her to get better. I think initially it's supposed to be like a few days, and then it turns into a week, and then it just snowballs.
Yeah, she's planning on staying there for months.
Yeah, and there is another, like, it's not even a B plot, it's like a second plot to this episode. This is kind of like half of the episode. So it doesn't take up that much time in like the 25 minutes. It's all quite concise. It skips over days. Anne's been staying here for a few days. She's been practicing playing her trumpet and just kind of getting in everyone's way. Martin walks in on her when she's taking a sponge bath. And all these kind of awkward little moments that are just, they're very, I don't know, I didn't find them as annoying because they're all quite quick. It's not, they don't linger. The whole problem with The Placeholder is that you're kind of forced to suffer through, like, I don't know how long that chunk of the episode is, but it's a long period of time you're sitting with her and Frasier awkwardly having dinner. Whereas here, all the jokes about her being weird are over quite quickly. Yeah. And just then they discuss how weird it is and then move on, So I didn't find it too bad. And then eventually, Frasier, after just... Well, why would he think that buying tickets to go on a cruise was a good idea?
I don't know. I really don't know.
He buys them and then leaves them out for her to find, and she assumes, which not unreasonably, I guess, given how sort of obsessive she is. She believes that the tickets are for her and Frasier to go away, when actually he bought them for her and her mother to get out of his house. And then there's sort of a bit of a run-in with the neighbour who Frasier's asked out to dinner, and that gets all awkward. And then they have a falling out, and then she wants to sue him, but then doesn't want to sue him, and it kind of all rounds up nicely and works out for Frasier in the end. Yeah. And I don't know. What do you think? Because I don't mind Anne in this episode. I always hated her. Yeah. But actually, this episode's just not too bad.
I really don't enjoy this episode.
Okay.
I don't especially dislike Anne. I do agree that she's a lot more kind of tolerable in this one for like the reasons that you've said, where we're kind of just getting the occasional little sort of comment about her being difficult to live with, rather than actually having to sit through like the awkward date and really being shown it firsthand. It's a lot more of it's off screen, or it's more just, Frasier talking about how much he can't bear to go home. But still, I don't necessarily think that's much better. It's not that it's more annoying, because it's not. I just don't think the episode really has anything going on to make it very entertaining.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, she's still pretty annoying.
Yeah, she is. There are a couple of lines that she has that I think are really funny, but it's not even necessarily it's more that you're kind of laughing at the character rather than the character is actually being funny. Like, Anne isn't really intentionally saying something that's funny. There's a line when she talks about how much Frasier annoyed her. How much Frasier annoyed her after they had their awkward date. And she says, like, if you had walked out in front of my car during those couple of weeks, I would have just gotten out and given you a right good kick. And that just cracks me up. And I really, like, there are the occasional good bits in this episode, but oh man, I just don't enjoy watching it.
No, it's fair. She is still very annoying, but yeah, I think when you're comparing it to the placeholder, it is a fair improvement for me.
Yeah.
And the other half of this episode, which is pretty funny, is the final quote unquote appearance of Maris.
Yeah.
Obviously, we still don't actually see her. Yeah. I am glad that they round off her character without ever resorting to seeing her.
Yeah.
But this is the final time she's ever sort of, I don't want to say like on screen, but she's not really.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean. Last time she's ever in an episode. So Niles is she's not pawning off, like selling all the antiquities from her house to, well, ostensibly. What's the word?
Ostensibly?
Ostensibly. I'm so tired, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no.
Ostensibly.
Yeah.
Ostensibly.
She's selling off the things
She's
in her
selling
house to pay for her legal defenses.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but secretly she's actually trying to set up Niles to come by and buy this painting that he had done he had commissioned of the two of them, or one of him and one of her. Is that right?
Yeah,
two separate
they had one each.
Yeah, so Niles' one was him as Pan the satyr. That's right, isn't it? The half goat.
Yeah.
It's sort of supposed to be like semi-erotic style. It's really not, but that's kind of the joke. So he wants to come and buy that and get it out of the house and make sure no one ever has to see it. Maris knows this is what he's going to come for, and he's going to get it. So she sneaks her tracking bracelet into the painting frame or whatever, and that allows Niles to be chased by the police while she sneaks out of the country off to her private island.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genius. I mean,
it is very clever.
As far as, criminal plots go, it's pretty good. And yeah, we have this great scene of Niles trying to hide the painting from everyone as he's getting told by the police to unload it from his car, and then the press show up and he gets exposed to everyone. It's a pretty funny painting, to be fair. I wouldn't mind hanging that.
You wouldn't mind
above my bed.
Niles painting.
Yeah, Niles satyr painting.
I'll keep that in mind for your next birthday.
Yeah, thank you. But no, I think this, so the Anne side of things kind of ties up before this plot does, and the final scene of the episode is the Crane lads around the table, and Niles reads this note that he's presumably found from Maris, or she mailed to him or something, just explaining what she did. She knew he was going to go for the painting. She's used that as her out to fly off to the private island where she can't be extradited, and they all kind of like have a glass of sherry or a toast, and say like she wasn't always the best, but she was some woman kind of thing. And I really like that. I like that ending. I like that sort of send off for Maris.
Yeah.
I would have liked it more if she was in jail, because that would have been funny. But I do kind of like that Maris never really sees consequences of her actions, and this is like the ultimate not seeing the consequences. You know?
This is very true to her character. This is like it's a solid way of sending off the character, because it's perfect for her in the way that the character's been written so far.
Yeah,
it's very in line with what we'd expect from Maris.
Yeah. Although she did murder a guy, she really should be in jail.
She did. She did. Well, it was supposedly self-defense. Yeah. We'll never know.
Yeah,
we'll never know.
I don't know the truth. So I'm judging by your tone throughout discussing this, you're not a huge fan of this episode.
Controversial opinion, I think. I don't really enjoy the B plot either.
Really?
I mean, I think for a lot of people, I can imagine that the B plot is what brings this episode up and makes it a lot more enjoyable, and the whole thing with Niles and the painting and stuff. It's funny. I don't think it's like unfunny. It's not like I'm watching it and thinking like, oh, this is terrible and I hate it. It's just, I don't know. The whole thing is just a setup for us seeing the painting of Niles as a goat. And it's like
I think it pays off.
It's like, okay.
Personally, I think
I don't really. I don't really think it's got that much of a payoff. It's like they describe it, and it's maybe this just comes from me having seen the episode enough times that I'm not like
you're
surprised by it. I'm not getting that anymore.
That's fair.
But I don't know. I don't necessarily think that it's all that funny, and having the kind of long build up to it just makes it kind of dull.
That's fair.
I always get the jokes about Maris drinking the protein shake and drinking too much and having to spit the protein shake back into the cup. Grosses me out.
Okay.
Just enough that it loses some points. That it really couldn't afford to lose in the first place.
So how many points did it lose for you?
This is a one cupper for me.
Really?
This is not a strong episode for me at all. I really don't enjoy it.
Oh. I give it a 5.
You didn't.
No, I didn't. Even you know that.
I knew you wouldn't have.
Yeah,
it would have been funny if you had, but no, I knew you wouldn't have.
I did give it a 3 though.
Okay.
I give it a 3. I think I enjoyed this a lot more than I remember it. I think a lot of the sort of offhanded jokes from Anne are actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
There's like a sort of innocence about her.
Yeah.
That I think it has its moments. And then I think there is that comparison to the placeholder, that because the placeholder is so awful to watch, or those scenes with Anne anyway are so awful to watch, that this one kind of feels a lot better by comparison. And the Niles and Maris stuff I think is pretty funny as well. So yeah, I give it middle of the road 3.
Fair enough.
You knew me too well that I wouldn't give it a 5.
Well, it's just like you're already saying like, oh yeah, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. It wasn't going to be a 5.
No. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's looking like we might never get that 5.
I don't think we will. I wonder if we'll get close in this last disc. Or last 2 discs.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Let's see. Next up, we have Freudian Sleep. Notably, one of the lowest rated episodes of the show.
Yes.
On IMDb and whatever else.
Most of the time, if fans of the show are asked, like, what do you think is the worst episode of the show? This is a pretty common answer.
Yeah. I don't agree.
I do agree.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think it's great.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't give it a 5. But I think when people use this as an example of a bad episode of Frasier, I'm kind of like, really? There are a lot worse episodes than this. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. But it's actually a very simple plot, so I don't need to go through much. But basically, they all go on holiday. The crew plus Ronnie. Everyone's having their own little problems. Niles and Daphne are arguing a lot over the baby, and just she's hormonal, and Niles is worrying about not being a good father. Frasier's worried about not getting calls on his show. He's had a few like subsequent days where he's not had any calls into his show at all.
Yeah.
And he's worried about that. Martin was looking forward to getting away with Ronnie, but then through a series of mishaps, he accidentally invites Frasier and Niles along with him to the cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
Not the cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
A cabin in the woods that they're renting.
Yes.
I do like the little joke where Martin asks Ronnie how she got the tickets. Not the tickets, but like the keys to the cabin. And she says, "Oh, I put out." And they both just kind of giggle over it. And I'm like, wait, was she joking? Or did she actually sleep with her boss?
Presumably she was joking.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just long enough ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
The fact they both just kind of like laugh it off. There's not really any like, "Oh yeah, got you, haha."
Yeah.
It's just like, "Oh, I put out." And then she walks out the room and you're like, what? Did you?
Yeah.
I do love Ronnie though.
Oh, Ronnie's fantastic. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the setup, and then they all get out into the cabin, and we've got. Sorry, if you're hearing any funny noises, it's the dog who is in the room with us for recording.
We've got a special guest in the recording booth.
He is letting out quite the size.
Yeah.
I think he's quite exhausted today. Mm-hmm. It's not me and Ewan, just like.
Although that is a pretty good.
I think we're both feeling pretty exhausted.
Yes,
today.
I am very tired today, and also we're talking about episodes that I really don't enjoy.
I know. Well, I think this might end up being a relatively short episode.
I think
overall,
it might do.
And we'll focus all our energy into next week.
Yes.
So they all get up to the cabin, and I think it's sort of an offhanded line, but they say that it's the mountain air that's causing them all to have quite vivid dreams, and it's basically like a series of each member of the family having their own dreams in the cabin. So Frasier has a dream where he's married to Daphne and he's killed off Niles.
He killed Niles in a wheat threshing accident.
And then he has a dream where he's trying to answer the phone in his booth at work, and he can't find the right phone, and they're ringing, and they're all very obvious dreams. Niles has a dream that he drops the baby and it shatters after a series of very bizarre like set pieces.
It's like it's kind of like slapstick, sort of cartoony. I always think like kind of like Doctor Seuss kind of art style. It's very like everything's sort of wonky.
Everything's bigger than it should be as well. Yeah. It's all very sort of pastel colors. Yeah. It's a bit weird. Daphne dreams that she's getting fatter and fatter, and Niles is cheating on her. And then we end with this musical number out of nowhere. It's Martin that dreams the musical number.
Martin dreams the musical number.
He and Ronnie have a sing-song for everyone.
Yeah.
At the end, it's a bit out of left field. Maybe it's not considering the rest of the episode, but even compared to the other dreams, it feels very.
I guess.
I don't know. I've always thought like the rest of the episode makes sense in terms of they're all having dreams that like affect them, and then there's not really any closure. There's just this big musical number, and Martin says like, "You guys are all fine. You got nothing to worry about. Here's a song."
Yeah.
And then the episode ends.
I think it is kind of supposed to be, because the song, it's the sunny side of the street.
Yeah.
And Martin's kind of talking about like, you need to have a positive outlook. Yeah. And then of course that's his, because he has a positive outlook on life, he's having a nice dream, and he's just sort of, and then you get the final scene of he's kind of just like cuddling up to Ronnie and sleeping soundly, whereas everyone else is stressing out and they're all thinking so negatively, and they're having all of these nightmares about their anxieties. Maybe a bit of a trite message, but it makes sense, at least to me.
Yeah. So that's the episode. There's not a lot of the humor comes from like the dreams and how bizarre the dreams are.
Yeah.
And it's all a bit weird, but if you kind of lean into the weirdness, it's kind of entertaining. It's not overly funny. There's a couple of wee moments that are good. I like the references to Roz referencing movies when she pretends to call into the show to fake callers. She uses different shows, and Frasier doesn't realize that Footloose was a movie. He thought that Roz was genuinely calling in about a town that wouldn't let her dance. I think that's so funny. And then during the dream, she's like dressed up as Thelma or Louise. I don't know which one. It's like, I'm going to drive this booth off the damn cliff. It's like, I don't know. It's just weird, but it's funny.
Apparently, her real accent Peri Gilpin's real accent because she's from Texas. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, apparently that was her letting out her real accent for a joke.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I think it's all right. If I had the option, if you would have allowed us to do half points or do it out of 10, I would give it a very 2.5, like right down the middle.
Yeah.
But I rounded it down because I don't think it deserved to be rounded up.
Fair enough.
So I gave it a 2 in the end.
A 2.
But
okay.
I think, I think it very much is just kind of lean into the weirdness of all the dreams and stuff, and it's kind of fun. It's not anything too offensive. It's just a bit strange.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's my main criticism with it. It's just kind of there.
It is very weird. And I don't enjoy it, but I do respect it.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So I give it a 1, but it's a very respectful one.
It's a respectful one.
It's a very respectful one, because something that I talked about a lot in, I think, kind of like season 9 and 10, is that there are barely any 1s and barely any 5s. Everything is kind of sitting at like a 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really take many risks. They didn't do anything that was particularly weird or interesting, and it meant that we didn't get any really solid episodes where they like really kind of broke through and did something really good, and we didn't get many 5s. But then it also meant that we didn't get any episodes where they, took a risk and it didn't pay off, and we got a 1.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what this episode is. So as much as I really don't enjoy it, and I would probably skip over it, which makes it an automatic 1 in my opinion, I do really respect the fact that they did something weird and took it in a weird angle. It's not entirely different to something like The Impossible Dream from season 4, where Frasier's having all those gay dreams. But it's not really about kind of the analyzing the dreams. It's not about like a recurring dream.
Yeah.
It's just all of these...
The humor comes from the weirdness of the dreams themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel you.
And it's... Yeah, I don't especially dislike it. I can see what they were going for, and I can respect them for doing that and doing something different. Personally, I just don't really enjoy it.
That's fair. I can see why you wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, I don't overly enjoy it. I'm not mad on it, but I think it's fine. I think one of my main criticisms... That dog's yawning again.
He's not even asleep. He's just
chilling. Yeah, I think one of my main gripes about this episode is that people hate on it so much, and I don't really see why.
Yeah,
like I get that it's not that funny, or that interesting, but that should settle it somewhere near the middle. Surely, it's not actively bad in any way. Like I can think of other episodes that are actively bad.
Yeah,
that I would rank a lot lower than this.
Yeah. There are other episodes that I've given a 1 where I feel like they're poorly written, or I feel like they're just sort of relying on forms of humor that are just cheap and not very interesting. Yeah. I'm really not a fan of like cringy humor. So episodes that really steer into that, I like a lot less. This episode I don't enjoy, but like I have said several times by this point, so I'll stop talking. Like I'm respecting the fact that
they tried something different,
doing something different. I think that's probably a lot of the reason that people don't like it, is because it is very different.
It does feel very different
from the regular type of episode. Frasier usually is known for being quite dialogue heavy and being set in the same locations over and over again, and it's more about like the relationships, and it's not... It would be pretentious to call it like an elevated level of humor, but like they make references to sort of more academic things.
It's all about the dialogue. The dialogue is what makes Frasier great.
Yeah.
So when you reduce a show like that to simply visual humor, it's not as entertaining.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping you like the next episode a bit better though. No. Really?
No.
Wow. Okay. Here was me thinking that we'd get some love for Caught in the Act. The next episode. Oh man, really? Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like we can get into it properly once we've talked about the episode.
Now,
no, I'm sorry. This is another one in a row that I really don't like.
I'm wondering how low you ranked it, because this could be interesting.
Yeah.
Caught in the Act features the semi-return of Nanette Guzman, aka Nanny G.
Yep.
Who I think only appeared once on screen in Frasier. And
did
she ever appear on screen in Cheers?
Yes, she did.
She did.
Yeah, she was.
Of course she did, because she was played by Emma Thompson.
She was played by Emma Thompson in an episode in Cheers, somewhere near the end.
Yeah.
Around kind of 1989 or something. And then she was in Don Juan and Hell.
Yes. The younger version of her.
The younger version, as in like when she was married to Frasier. Yeah.
Here she is once again played at normal age, played by Laurie Metcalf. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, because I really love Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah.
She's in a lot of just like character roles, and she's just always great. She's such a great like just actor. I just love her.
Yeah, she's very funny.
She no different here. I always get her and Wendy Malick mixed up, which is really funny because they're both in this season of Frasier. Yeah. I don't know if that's where it stems from, but I know who's who, and if I sit down and stop and think about it, I know who's who, but I always want to call her Wendy Malick.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why.
No, I have no idea.
No, just in my head, they're just, the names are similar, and they're both kind of like those style of comedic character actors.
Has Laurie Metcalf done much voice acting?
Possibly.
I don't know.
She does have
the top of my head.
I
think she has quite a recognizable voice, and it's kind of
has.
Similar to Wendy Malick. Yeah. So that might possibly be.
Maybe it's just me being weird and just.
Yeah, personally, I can't say I get them confused.
No, okay. Anyway, she is. She's playing Nanny G, Nanette Guzman, in this episode. Nanny G has become, or has been for a long time. It's implied at least 20 years.
Yeah,
has been a children's entertainer. I don't know if that's the first time we've.
No, she was in
Cheers.
I've not seen the episode of Cheers, but I'm sure she was.
You know the lore a little bit better than I do.
Because I think the whole thing in that episode is that's after Frederick's been born, and they are like, "Oh, we're going to go and see a children's entertainer" when Frederick's like a baby, and Frasier and Lilith and Frederick go, and then it turns out to be Frasier's ex-wife.
Sure.
And I think that's like the first time we find out that Frasier was married before, and it's like a whole thing.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's like.
Well, if that's true, that's not miles away from the plot in this episode, which is Roz and, Alice wants to go and see tickets, wants to get tickets to go and see Nanny G perform live. I presume it's a similar style to like the Singing Kettle, a lot of characters on stage singing, dancing, and you've got entertainer and whatever.
The Singing Kettle, for anyone who's listening, that's the Scottish version of the Wiggles.
Oh, is Singing Kettle not worldwide?
No, I don't think so.
Was it not? I thought it was.
I think they're a pretty Scottish thing. They might be known around the UK, but I definitely don't think they're international.
Oh, sorry.
Kind of like the Wiggles.
I was referencing them because I thought they were like global. But
no, I think the Singing Kettle were just a Scottish thing.
Oh, then ignore me. Yeah, let's go with the Wiggles then.
I'm pretty sure they were
the Wiggles comparison.
They were from like Kerrymuir or something. I don't think they were even from like that far away.
Kerrymuir, for those who don't know, is a small town like in the
half an hour away
middle of
from
Scotland. Yeah. Oh, there's the dog. He's woken up. He's ready to cause some trouble. Settle back down, buddy. We're talking about the Wiggles.
We were talking about Singing Kettle, Harry.
Yeah. Okay, the Wiggles then. It's kind of like the Wiggles. It's sort of a kids' entertainment, like, singing, dancing, and whatever. So they go and see her at a book signing. Frasier takes Alice and Roz along, and because he knows Nanny G, he's able to get tickets. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. The dog needed out, and he was just whining, and here was me thinking we're going to be able to go through a whole episode of him just sitting calmly in the corner.
Yeah.
It's giving season 2 vibes when he would just trot her in and make loads of noise.
We're supposed to be past this, Harry.
Yeah.
We've grown as a brand.
Yeah. So Frasier gets tickets for Alice and Roz, and while he does this, Nanny G does this like play along song, like peekaboo song, getting everyone in the audience to close their eyes, and while they do, she slaps a big old snog on his lips. And she's very like...
She's very aggressive.
What's the like PC term for this? Like,
I don't know.
Horny.
I don't
know. Like, hard up. What's the word?
Sexually charged.
Sexually charged. Yeah. She's sort of like touching herself as she gets back into place and stuff, and it's very
not touching herself. This is still a family show, kind of.
But she's very like
she's very handsy.
Yeah. Which leads Frasier down this whole, as he does, over analytical path, thinking that she wants to get back together or wants to sleep with him or whatever. I don't know. And this leads to them having dinner. She comes by. He thinks it's going to be a reunion, quote unquote, of sorts. But she brings along her husband and manager, whose name forgets me.
Donald.
Yes. Donald. I knew he had a funny name. Not that Donald's a particularly funny name. It's just a bit humorous.
Yeah. Like the duck.
I don't know. Donald's. It's kind of a name that's played a bit for laughs.
Yeah, I guess.
Sometimes. Maybe. No offense to any Donalds out there.
Yeah.
Respect the Donalds.
Yeah. Well, most Donalds. I don't respect every Donald.
Oh yeah, not all of them. Oh yeah, no, not all of them.
Don't respect
all the Donalds.
Don't respect that one.
I told you I was tired. I don't know what I'm saying half the time.
It's fine.
So they have this really weird... Donald even makes a reference. He's like, after Niles and Martin leaves, he kind of... It's almost like he puts his arm around them. He doesn't really, though. It's like he just kind of says, like, well, it looks like we're a threesome tonight. And this kind of awkward look around the room.
Yeah.
Because she's obviously... Nanny G wants to sleep with Frasier. Frasier wants to sleep with her, but Donald's kind of stuck in the middle. They have to point out they have this great conversation in the kitchen as well, which is one of the jokes that always gets pointed out, and we're going to point it out as well. But I think it's so funny and meta the way they address it. When she's kind of comes in and explains to Frasier how frustrated she is. She's stuck to a man she doesn't really love. She's been playing the same character for 20 some years. Do you know how awful it is to play the same character for 20 years? And the audience, like the audience in the show laughs and kind of cheers at this, and we zoom over to Kelsey Grammer, who's kind of like
he has a look on his face. It's very good.
It's a very deliberate joke. It's great. And so Donald being there, they obviously don't sleep together, and Frasier then goes to see her at the, I don't know, theater, I guess, whatever the stadium they're doing the show at. It
always looks like a very, very big.
It looks very big. I guess theaters in like America are usually a lot bigger than the theaters we would stay here.
Oh, everything's bigger in America.
Well, I know, but like when we say go to the theater here, it's usually quite small productions.
Oh yeah,
apart from like the big city theaters.
Unless it's like, like West End, you're going to see a big musical or something. Yeah, you're talking max maybe 100 people, or maybe more, a couple hundred.
But I think theaters in America are
probably a lot bigger,
quite gigantic. And through various through one mishap, the mishap being that Frasier and Nanny G climb into this big prop bed, which rises up onto the stage. They're both left in the spotlight as the show starts, which, I mean, you should know how much time you've got to go, and even if you knew how much time you had to go, do not climb on the prop bed in the middle of the stage. That should be rule number 1 of sleeping with Nanny G.
Yeah.
You
should put it on the door.
And the sort of last maybe few minutes of the episode, 5 minutes or so, is Nanny G trying to do her show while Frasier's in the bed trying to hide, and then he has to address it because they're going to shoot the bed up into the rafters.
Apparently it gets, but like, okay,
the way the guy describes it is like
it gets blown up. It's like, why would you do that? Surely that's not. It's not that violent if the bed's not getting like smashed.
I know, but also like, yeah, how dangerous could it be? It just zooms up into this guy. I don't know, but the bunny man makes it sound very scary.
Yeah.
So Frasier, takes off all his clothes and has to pretend to be a baby in front of everyone. Which, he deserves that.
Yeah.
He deserves to be a big baby.
Yeah.
And we don't. Baby. Yeah, we don't get a whole lot of closure actually in this episode.
No, we really don't. Beyond, Donald sees, he figures out what's going
during the credits.
Yeah.
Well,
immediately, like right at the end when Frasier's trying to get off the stage, he sort of goes. He tries to get off stage, and Donald's standing there just glaring at him.
Yeah.
And obviously he realizes, if I go that way, Donald's going to kick my ass because I tried to sleep with his wife. Yeah.
And then we get the credit sequence where he's looking for Frasier down in the basement area.
Yeah.
And all the like actors all dressed up like bunnies and pandas and stuff, they're all smoking and playing poker.
Yeah.
Frasier's hiding in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's actually, I didn't think about that. I didn't make a note on how little closure there is in this episode.
There's really anything.
Don't see Nanny G again or anything. But despite that, I think it's a really great episode. I think it's really fun. I love Laurie Metcalf. I think she does a great job of playing this frustrated children's entertainer. I love the like meta aspect to it of Kelsey Grammer's life and like his frustrations of playing the same character for so long.
Yeah.
And you know what? The slapstick scene at the end when they're on stage, I just think it's funny. I just think I think it's a good laugh. So before I give my rating, what did you give it?
I was really close to giving it a 2, but I can't give it a 2. No, I'm giving it a 1.
Seriously?
Like I find this one really hard to watch.
Really?
It's like knowing that the ending is coming just makes me hate it. I hate, like, the end is just so it makes my skin crawl. I can't stand it. Absolutely hate it. The whole scene when it's like these on stage and you
have to lean into it. It's one of those you just have to lean into it.
I hate it. I was the reason that I was close to giving it a 2 is because there's one joke that I didn't really remember it, or like I kind of remembered it, but I never think of it as like a really solid joke. And then when it came up, I was about pissed myself because it's so funny. And it's when they're at dinner at Frasier's apartment and Donald goes to answer the phone and then he comes back in and they're just sort of like chatting. They're, everyone's having a good time, and he comes back in and goes, "Well, Mr. Bunny's using again." And it's just the delivery and the fact that they're like it doesn't go anywhere or anything. It just cracks me up. So that, yeah.
Poor Mr. Bunny.
Bunny.
He's struggling, man.
He is. But yeah, no, I can't stand this episode. I give it a 1.
Oh, man. See, I think this is one of the better episodes of the season.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Didn't give it a 5, though.
Didn't give it a 5?
No. It's still a 4. It just, it is great. I do really like it. I do think it's one of the best episodes of the season, but I think it's still missing a lot. I think there's a bit of like, I don't know, there's a certain level of humor that feels like it's missing a little bit. The more sort of dialogue heavy jokes are missing a bit. It's quite, everything about it is quite high level. You have to look at it sort of at face value and just like lean into the humor. There's not that much depth. There's the occasional one, like Mr. Bunny's using, or the other one when they first get onto the bed in the basement and it starts moving or starts because the contraption starts going, and Nanny G screams like, "Oh my god!" and Frasier says, "What, already?" Which is obviously like, it takes you a second to realize what's being said, and then it is quite funny. But I think it's still great. I think it's still a really enjoyable episode. Yeah, Laurie Metcalf's great. Donald's pretty funny as well. Again, his just kind of innocence and complete obliviousness to what's going on just adds like a level of humor to all the scenes with the two of them together. There we go. I thought I had you going. I thought I had you going with like giving it a 5, but no.
I was worried, but
no.
Yeah.
I am surprised you gave it a 1 though. I genuinely am. I thought it's worth more than a 1.
I really do find it very difficult to watch.
Okay. Let's try the next one. Let's see if we can move past a 1.
Yeah.
The next episode. Boo.
Ah.
Martin is stepping up his prank game. We've Harry, really, man, chill. Martin is stepping up his prank game. We've seen him in the past known to pull one over on Frasier and presumably Niles as well, but we don't really see him doing pranks on Niles.
Never really pranked Niles.
It is implied to have been done in the past, though.
Yeah.
And it's kind of building up. It's obviously been going on for a wee while. I think Martin's trying to show off his youth, I guess, to Ronnie.
Or maybe a little bit,
his playful side.
I didn't think of that. Because he
it's
said,
sort of implied.
He bets Ronnie that he bets Ronnie.
Just keep going. Just go through the dog whines. It's fine.
He bets Ronnie that Frasier screams like a girl.
Yeah.
Which he does. Yeah. But yeah, no, I never thought of that. But that's a good point. That like it probably is a little bit that, Martin is maybe a good 10 years, maybe older than Ronnie.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I don't think they ever explicitly say how much, but if you think that, I think maths wise, Frasier was probably born when Martin was pretty young, probably in his early 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if Ronnie would have been a teenager when Frasier was being babysat, then presumably about 17, 18.
10 years difference about 10, at most, so probably, you're talking
probably somewhere around 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. But that's I've always kind of thought that at the start, that he's just like the whole reason for this run of pranks is just him showing off to Ronnie.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So he gets Frasier, gives Frasier a fright while he's air conducting the orchestra on his stereo. He sneaks into his office after he finishes a session and gives him a fright with one of the so it's like a sort of African style mask.
Yeah.
He gives him a fright. And I think there's a mention of a couple of others as well. He's been pranking him. I can't remember.
They talk about
I'm sure there's one other.
They talk about when they were kids and they went camping, and he kind of told them scary stories. And
I don't know why I thought there was a third one.
He kind of, when he's sitting in Frasier's office, he starts mimicking. Oh, well, he prank calls him.
That's right.
He prank calls
him. Yeah.
Mr. Erection.
Mr. Eric Erection.
Yeah.
And yeah, this leads to Frasier wanting to get his own back on him, and I don't know. Do you think he takes it too far?
Does Frasier take it too far? Yeah.
It's on the line, isn't it? It's because objectively, I wouldn't say that's over the line for a prank. It's like on the line.
Yeah.
But for your elderly father, it maybe is crossing the line a little bit. And he should have kind of realised what could happen.
Frasier should know that he's not good at pranks by now. We've had enough episodes. We have,
there's also that.
I'm not entirely sure. I think there's definitely some, because there's the different elements. I mean, he's dressed as a clown.
Yeah.
And he's wielding a meat cleaver.
Yeah. And he jumps out on him.
It's a much more elaborate setup to him jumping out. He like pretends to leave the apartment and everything. So I think maybe if he took one or two of those elements out, it would maybe be a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something.
It's a bit of a shocker for Martin.
It certainly is.
It lands him in the hospital.
It does.
And yeah, a mild cardiac episode, as they say, which is, it's a heart attack. It's just a heart attack. They do kind of lean into that joke a little bit, deciding what to actually call it. But Yeah, the whole I didn't mention the whole setup with the fact that he's dressed as a clown is because he's treating a patient with coulrophobia, which is the fear of clowns, whom he then bumps into at the hospital and gives her a fright as well.
While still dressed as a clown.
While trying to like justify his prank, and then he bumps into her and she's like screaming
and shouting. Yeah,
it's all very silly.
And it's an actress that we've seen before on Frasier.
Stephanie
Faracy. I would presume it's pronounced Faracy.
Faracy.
Who was in Voyage of the Damned.
Yes.
I was about to call it Ghost Ship. That's
Ghost
not what it's
Ship.
called. Voyage of the Damned. She plays Mimi,
Yeah.
who is Niles and Maris's society friend, who's very flirty with Niles.
She's another good sort of guest character actor who's been in a lot of things.
Yeah.
You recognise her popping up here and there.
She's a lot of fun, and she's really good in this. She's very funny in kind of the therapy session with the Jack in the Box. She's getting hysterical.
Please don't kill me.
Yeah, she's very funny.
Yeah. So after all this like sort of prank war dies down, we get the last little section, like the third act of the episode, is Martin sits down with Ronnie to tell her what happened. She was out of town during the whole thing. So he sits down to tell her what happened, and Frasier and Niles kind of have this little chat, and it's really quite emotional. I don't know. There's a lot they kind of discuss and talk about how real it all became when he had the heart attack, and how they're not ready to lose their dad yet.
Yeah.
And then they've got sort of the Martin side of thing as well, where he kind of realizes that he's not as young as he used to be. And I don't know. I love that Ronnie just kind of shrugs it off.
Yeah.
When he tells her what happens, she's just like, okay, I've had one of those. I didn't have a great Botox guy, okay?
Yeah.
And kind of, it's just kind of like, it's a thing that happens, you know, it's just one of those things. I thought it was going to be something more serious, like breaking up with me or proposing. And then they have this whole discussion, and it's like, well, what if I was going to propose to you? What would you say? Well, are you asking me? Well, maybe I am. And it's this kind of back and forth. And they eventually decide they're going to get married. And that rounds off the episode. But that third act of the episode, I really, really love. I think it's really sweet, all the different angles and the different ways that everyone's kind of addressing it. Like, Frasier's obviously very apologetic about what happened. Niles is quite cautious and, you know, making sure that Martin's got the right stuff to eat and he's not carrying things. And then you've got Ronnie, who's kind of like, well, that's a part of life. That's, you know, something that happens. You need to move on with it. It's just nice. It kind of comes together. The rest of the episodes, the build up to it takes quite a while though.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels quite sparse in terms of jokes and plot. But yeah, it's overall, it's a decent episode, I think. Yeah. Are you willing to give it something more than a 1?
Yes, I am. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I there's lots in this episode that I enjoy. I think some of the pranks are very funny. You know, we get some good jokes there, even though they are a bit kind of few and far between in the first 2/3 of the episode or whatever. And then towards the end, you know, Frasier and Niles sort of talking candidly about, you know, they're not ready to lose Martin. And I think Niles says something like, the idea of coming into the apartment and seeing the chair and knowing that he wasn't there to sit in it, and he kind of gets choked up as he's talking, and it's very sweet. It's very touching. And it really comes out of left field from an episode that started out about
like pranks.
A prank war. And then Martin and Ronnie are very, very sweet together as well. I really like the two of them. So yeah, I agree with you pretty much entirely. I think it's not necessarily a solid episode, or kind of in the first 2/3. There are good bits sort of peppered through it, but it's a bit mediocre. And then towards the end, it is a lot nicer. So I gave it a 3.
Excellent. We agree on something then.
Yes.
This disc. Yes, I give it a 3 as well. I will say I do love the drive home, the joke after they're talking about coming home and seeing that empty chair, and Frasier says something on the lines of, "Oh, don't be silly, Niles. That'll never happen. If he dies, I'll get rid of the chair straight away."
Yeah.
Like, that'll be the first thing to go. And, you know, it's that kind of stuff that I miss about the older episodes of Frasier. where you've got these kind of quite emotional scenes, and they draw you in, and then they like hit you with this great one-liner. And I think that's been lacking a little bit the last kind of couple of seasons, maybe. You know, we've had quite emotional episodes. You know, we had a 3-parter about Niles having a heart attack.
Yeah.
There's not that much humor in those episodes. There's the occasional joke, but there's not kind of that level of balance, like the whole sort of spring release humor. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this episode. It's not perfect. There is definitely missing a lot, but it's nice. It's enjoyable, and it kind of sets up our final plot arc with Martin and Ronnie as well. The two of them getting married, which I think is sweet, and I always think it comes a lot later. I think I said that in the first episode of this season. You know, she appears quite early on in the season, but I don't know why. I always remember it being quite quick.
Yeah.
Towards like the very end, that they meet, they propose, they get married.
Yeah. We don't have many episodes with her in it.
We don't.
Probably
we don't.
Plays a part that it does feel maybe a little sudden, or a lot of the appearances that we do have with Ronnie are quite small parts. There are a handful of episodes about Ronnie and Martin's relationship, but not many. So yeah, I can definitely. Yeah, unfortunately, not many. Yeah, I think it definitely would have been good if we'd gotten Wendy Malikan a lot sooner and really had more time with her, because
although I will say, I could have seen him and Sherry settling down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, to be honest, I think they are similar characters.
They are.
I think I did say
we discussed this last week.
Yeah. When Ronnie's introduced, they are similar. So, yeah, I'm glad that we're getting another character like Sherry or Ronnie. Well, I mean, it is Ronnie.
You know, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Here, and we're getting some more episodes like that, and we're getting a nice little romantic happy ending for Martin as well.
Yeah, that's good. Now, when we were talking before, and I said that what's it called? Freudian Sleep.
Yeah.
Is notoriously one of the worst rated episodes and one of the like just absolute stinkers. I think that is like, that's a 10-cupper.
Yeah.
Right, compared to Coots and Ladders, which is the next episode, which I would probably place very close, if not at the very bottom.
Or like worst episodes
of
ever.
Worst episodes of Frasier.
Boy, okay.
There's just nothing to this episode that redeems it. Like, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. There's a couple of little things that are funny, but I really just they dropped the ball so bad on this episode. It had so much potential to be great, and it's just so boring.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we going the opposite direction? Are you starting to get
interesting? I know I don't feel the same way. I'm not going to say that I love this episode, because I don't. I remember. It's one of those ones that I kind of remember quite fondly.
Okay.
But then watching it this time, I didn't especially like it. I didn't find anything in it that I thought was that good. But no, I don't think it's bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's awful.
Okay.
I really don't like this episode. It's mostly set as like a majority of the episodes are flashback. Or maybe not majority, like half the episodes are flashback. Frasier is telling Niles about his week at work, how everyone's kind of been telling him how boring he is, how he's not moved on in his life in the last 10 years, how he does nothing new or exciting or anything. And this, combined with a caller who phones in, I presume a guest caller? Yeah, a guest caller? Yes, cool. Phones in and says that she's had a bit of a bout of kleptomania, stealing things, and this kind of convinces Frasier to. I mean, the opportunity is given to him. It's not like he goes out on a burglary spree. Burglary, purple burglar alarm.
Yeah.
And he visits his elderly neighbor. Oh my god, I can't actually talk. I was doing it as a bit, but
elderly neighbor.
Elderly neighbor.
Opal.
Those Scottish accents, man.
I know.
He visits his elderly neighbor, Opal. And while she's making a cup of tea and saying hi to him and making him cake or whatever, he pinches her, is it bronze medal?
Yeah.
From like the 1930s Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? She's is it a long jumper or something?
I was going to say, for some reason I want to say hurdling.
Hurdling, maybe?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
It was, the 1939.
The joke is the fact that she got a bronze, because they do,
yeah,
do say like, yeah, well, that's just second loser, isn't it? Or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he steals her medal and he's telling Niles all about it and eventually convinces Niles to go with him to return it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's having a surprise birthday party thrown for her, so they're trying to like navigate their way back into the apartment and put it away while everyone's having a party, and Niles has to pretend to be having some psychological breakdown and then break through, and it's just it's as exciting as I'm making it sound. Mm-hmm. It's so boring and dull and makes no sense, and it's just very incoherent. I don't know, the plot just isn't there for me. It doesn't gel together. You've got this great opportunity for like a flashback and building up to something really funny, and then it's just like, oh, we went back to our flat and returned it.
Yeah. And
that's it. And they do, and they return it,
they do.
And then they leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm being overly critical of the episode, but
I do agree. It's one of the things I don't like about the episode is that it doesn't really have a very good conclusion. It's very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
We get this whole, Frasier's stressing out. I mean, the episode opens with it's dark and stormy and there's lightning and it's like, oh, I've committed a crime, and he's, stressed out and anxious, and Niles is trying to help him, and then it turns out that he's just lifted something off his neighbor's counter,
accidentally pocketed something, yeah,
and then he just went and put it back, and that's kind of it.
That's it, yeah. See, now you need to justify why you like this episode.
I like Opal. I think Opal's very funny. She's played by Estelle Parsons, who I actually mentioned last week because she played.
Oh, she was
a
guest
call in the one that's got all the various famous people, and she's Stanley Tucci's mother-in-law.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I think she's really funny in this. She's got quite a lot of good bits of dialogue. She keeps using animal metaphors and then not using animal metaphors when Frasier thinks that she's going to, and then Frasier makes a comment on her bust, but is talking about like a little, like a statuette bust, and she thinks that he's talking about her breasts. And it's, I think she's really funny. I think one of the things that we get a little bit of from the flashback with Frasier and Niles talking is kind of similar to oh god, what's the one when they go into private practice together?
Crane versus Crane.
No.
Oh no, that's later on.
You know the one I'm thinking of. They go into private practice together. It starts with them in couples therapy, and they tell the story of how they went into private practice together.
Fraternal Schwins. No, that's later. Oh, that's bad.
I know, it's going to annoy me.
We're a Frasier podcast, damn it. We should know this.
I can't remember the name of the episode. But yeah, that one, where they're telling the story and they're each giving it from their own angle, and we're getting kind of every so often someone says something or does something in a certain way where that they're embellishing the story.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of that here. I don't think it's done as well. But like Niles keeps interrupting to say like, oh, don't tell me you did this. You went and you smashed someone's windscreen in with a hammer, or I can't even remember another example now. But Frasier says, everyone is kind of sitting around talking about how great it is that they're so in love while Frasier is single. And he remembers it as everyone being very pointed and kind of like glaring at him and being like, oh, we're so lucky. We're in love and you're single.
Yeah.
And like, I like that aspect of it as well, that it's kind of played up the way that we can benefit from it being a flashback, and we can kind of play up these little bits and see them twice in slightly different ways. And
yes, I kind of wish they'd lean into it a bit more, though. They don't do it much.
No, I agree. Yeah, like I say, the episode when they're in private practice is done a lot better.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of it here. Would have been better if we'd gotten more. And the end scene at the party generally isn't very funny. I don't really... Yeah.
we don't really know any of the cast. It's all like her family, Opal's family and friends.
Yeah. There's not really much in the way of stakes to it, because if what would really happen? They need to put it back on the exact right shelf, so they need to distract everyone while Niles goes up the ladder and then he falls over and it's dramatic. But what really would have happened if Frasier just walked in and put it down on the counter and then walked out again?
Yeah,
Is Opal then going to go and be like, you were in my apartment, I know that you moved my medal? Like, nothing's gonna happen.
I think that's kind of my problem with the episode, is that there's not really any... You don't care.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing really to care about. If it had been something... I don't know. If he'd stolen the medal and she was due to be presenting it at an awards ceremony or something, or passing it on at her daughter's birthday party or something like that was like more high stakes.
Not just, it's her birthday, so she's going to take a picture with it.
Exactly.
So we need to get it back.
It's like, I don't know. It just...
Yeah, not great.
So I agree that Opal's probably the highlight of the episode. I think she's very funny.
There are some good bits of dialogue. I think I really like when Frasier is on the call with Babette, the kleptomaniac, played by Helen Mirren. One of the more famous guest callers, I think. And he's coughing because the barista over nutmegged his macchiato or something. And Roz interjects and starts giving advice on his behalf, and kind of starts commenting like, it's the exact same advice that you give to everybody, because everyone calls with the same problems, and you always just say, like, work on your self-esteem, see a professional. Like, and I think it's really funny, the little back and forth that they have about that.
So what did you give it then? How many cups of coffee?
Give it a 3.
A 3?
Yeah.
Really?
It's fine.
Wow, okay.
I don't especially like it. It's definitely not, for some reason, I think it's maybe just the setup of the kind of dark and stormy night at the beginning and the drama of it when the episode kicks off. I kind of remember quite fondly, but it definitely doesn't go anywhere. So it's not actually that enjoyable to watch now. It's definitely disappointing compared to how I remembered it. Okay. But yeah, I think like overall it's not bad. There are good jokes that it gets a laugh out of me.
That's all you want in an episode of Frasier, isn't it?
A couple of good guest stars. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I just hate it.
That's fine.
If I'm being honest, yeah. I gave it a 1, and it's definitely a pretty low 1 for me. I don't know if we're going to try and organize our rankings a bit more than sort of the high level ratings. But I think if I was to go through all my like 1 cup rated episodes that I've given throughout the show
and pick the worst,
I think this might be the worst. If not, it would be very, very near the bottom.
Yeah.
Sorry to say. It's fine. You gave a 1 to Caught in the Act.
I did give a 1 to Caught in the Act. Yeah, no, you're allowed to give. You can give a 1 to whatever episode you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever you like.
You can stop this podcast right now.
You can. I can go home.
No, we've got 1 episode left.
Yeah.
Come on, power through.
I'm always excited for this episode that's coming up as well.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I mean it's not an especially good episode, no. But I'm always excited for it because it introduces Laura Linney, who, as I mentioned last week, I love.
Oh yeah, everyone loves Laura Linney. And actually, I was going to say the previous episode kind of ties into this. So we've got the final episode in disc as Match Game, and this sets in motion the final arc for Frasier up until the end of the show. It's sort of alluded to in the previous episode where everyone else is happy and Ronnie and Martin together, Daphne and Niles have a kid on the way, and Frasier's single and alone, and he's been doing the same things for 20 years. All these kind of little jokes actually do kind of add up over the last couple of last dozen episodes or so,
there's
little jokes here and there, like him playing the same character for 20 years and him being single and him giving the same advice and wanting to switch up his life and go into private practice. All those kind of things are leading towards
he's unsatisfied.
He's unsatisfied with his life.
He wants to get something else out of it.
He bumps into Charlotte, a matchmaker who works upstairs from Frasier and Niles, which I completely forgot. They work in the same building.
They share a building.
But he's sort of not paying attention and goes up to the wrong floor and bumps into her. And after bumping into yet another woman that he previously dated but mistook for a fan, he goes back to Charlotte and agrees to sign up to her services for $10,000. I'm telling you right now, if I'm ever in a situation in my life where I am single and going to pay $10,000 for someone to find me a match, give me a good old slap, please.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me to spend that money on a car or
$10,000
Lego or something. That is a ridiculous amount of money.
It is an insane amount of money. I really don't know how it could cost that much.
Oh, I think it's kind of implied that it doesn't, and she's taken him for a loan.
I guess.
Like it is explained later in the episode, but she has kind of failed her previous business, which was also matchmaking. She did with her ex-husband, and when they broke up or when they divorced, he took the business, and she was left on her own, starting from scratch. So I think that it's implied, that this is her starting from scratch, and she's kind of going all in at once rather than starting slowly and building up. Or that's kind of the impression I got anyway.
I can see that. Yeah.
And in my notes I kind of said she's a fraud. She's not. It's that kind of level, when it's like, I agreed to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's like she's telling the truth. She's not telling the whole truth, though.
Yeah. She's not exactly a con artist, but she's also not being honest. Yeah. She's definitely telling some porky pies.
A couple
of porky pies and a bag of chips.
Couple of porkies. Yeah. A snack-sized bag of crisps. and just kind of misleading Frasier that she's more competent than she is. She sets him up on a bunch of very questionable dates.
Yeah.
One of whom is underage.
One of whom is very clearly,
which I think is illegal in probably every state.
Well, she's not old enough to drink, so she's under 21.
Oh, that's true, but she could be over 18.
She could be over 18. She's presumably over 18, but under 21, which is still not great, considering Frasier is about 50.
It's not good.
Like, there's a laugh when she says, like, oh, so what are you, like 50? And everyone laughs. And he's like, yeah, something like that. He is like 50.
He is like 50.
He turned 42 in season 1.
Yep.
And this is season 11, so he's in his early 50s. He's like 52, 53.
Yep. Not good, man.
Really gross.
Not good.
Hate it.
You got that To Catch a Predator guy ringing on his door.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
Chris Hansen.
Chris Hansen, that's the one. I was getting mixed up with that guy who does all the nerdy stuff on YouTube. He's Chris somebody, is it not, as well?
What, the astronaut?
No, not the astronaut. He does like all the nerdy stuff on YouTube. He does like the nerdy interviews. He does podcasts and stuff. He did like the Walking Dead podcast.
I have no idea.
Chris
who you're talking
somebody.
About. No, I don't know.
Harding.
Chris Harding.
Chris Harding, is
Could
that right? I don't know, something like that. I don't know, but I always think it's him. When someone says Chris Hansen, I'm like, oh, it's that guy. And it's like, no, he's the pedophile catcher.
The
and I'm
pedophile catcher.
Oh, right, that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so unimportant. Okay. So yeah, we got Chris Hansen coming to the door.
Chris Hansen, yeah,
shows up midway through the episode. Frasier gets busted, and that's it. That's the end of the show.
Yep. That's how it ends. That's how Frasier ends. He gets arrested for being a pedophile.
Could you imagine? That would be like the most shock ending to a show ever.
Oh yeah,
you'd make that. You'd make BuzzFeed's top 10 list every single time.
Top 10 what?
Shock endings.
Oh, top 10 shock endings. Okay, yeah.
What else would I be talking?
I don't know. I thought you were just saying that like that kind of shock ending would make it a top 10 TV series ever made.
No. It would be it's awful. But it would be the most shocking ending.
That's kind of how Seinfeld ends. No one turns out to be a pedophile.
Jerry Seinfeld a pedophile?
No, they get arrested.
Oh right.
They get arrested and they get in. Like I've not actually seen it, so I might be getting this wrong. But that's the whole thing, is that it had like a really infamous ending. They get all the guest stars from all the episodes in to talk about all the horrible things that the characters have done. They're like, they go on trial, they get arrested, and it ends with them in prison. And that's just the end of the show. It's just the four of them sitting in a prison cell together.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't like Seinfeld. I gotta say.
I've never really watched it.
Oh no, I mean the guy.
Oh, Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah, no, Jerry Seinfeld seems like a bit of a wanker.
Yeah, not a huge fan of that guy. Right, where was I before I went off on that weird Chris Hansen tangent?
Weird dates.
Yeah.
So there's one's very young. There's one's a creationist.
Yeah, there's one really sweet lady who like knits her own clothes.
Yeah,
and has like a rockin' dress.
Yeah.
I'd if she offered to make me like shirt and matching hat with like. I'd wear that.
Yeah, we really don't know anything about that character beyond the fact that she knitted her own dress. That's like made her own dress of like that's like patchwork.
Yeah, it's kind of banging. I dig it.
It's not bad.
She seems sweet.
I would probably wear a shirt made of that kind of material. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would rock that. Yeah. We should get matching shirts.
Shirts, matching patchwork shirts.
The Happy Brothers embroidered on it.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so good. Who else is there?
I'm not going off on another tangent.
Yeah, no more tangents.
Don't let me, please.
One of them is, it annoys me that like the whole thing is that she seems like a nice woman, and Frasier's completely put off by the fact that she's wearing a wig.
Oh, she's wearing a wig, yeah. I think it's more the fact that she doesn't realize that her wig is like
it's like askew.
Yeah, and he's kind of like sort of subtly trying to tell her, but she just doesn't get it. That's the humor. The humor is a bit questionable because it's like she's just wearing a wig.
She's wearing a wig.
Wrong with that. If the joke had been like she's actually a criminal on the run and was wearing a wig to hide her identity, that would have been funnier.
That would have been funnier.
That wouldn't have been as unreasonably offensive. You know,
we do get one quite notable character. The last date. Actually, I don't think she's not the last one. She might be one of the first ones that we see. Who's credited as Horny Date.
Horny Date.
Is played by Rachel Dratch, who's quite well known for being on Saturday Night Live.
She's very
and has appeared in lots.
We're almost done, pal.
Lots of films and TV series with the other SNL cast. She's kind of like very sort of character. She gets into these like weird. It's not like method, but she always plays like weird, eccentric characters.
That's the right word. Eccentric,
She was on 30 Rock as well.
Oh yeah,
which was basically supposed to be a kind of send up of SNL.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
So she's like the only particular well known actress.
So the dates obviously don't go very well. They're all played up to be very silly and ridiculous, and at the end of the date, or at the end of the dates, Frasier kind of confronts Charlotte and says, look, is there anyone else out there? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And he has a sneak in her portfolio at the supposed thousands of women that are keen to see him, and it's virtually empty. There's like 3 portraits at the start of the folder. So he confronts her, and she comes clean about the whole situation with her ex-husband and losing the business and trying to get set up again. And then they have a really nice dinner together. They sit down and have food and wine and whatever. She has a boyfriend, but still a nice dinner, and she seems interested in him as well, sort of. And there's sort of an offhanded line earlier on in the episode that Frasier kind of says he's looking for a woman who wants to keep him up at night, not in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be thinking of her late at night. He wants to be lying in bed and think of her.
Yeah.
And the episode ends with Frasier lying in bed obviously thinking about Charlotte. And that's a nice little scene. It's a nice little callback. Like, you need to be paying attention to the episode because it's such an offhanded comment earlier on, but it lands. If if you're watching it, it lands. I think it's clever. Yeah. What else happens in this episode?
I mean, nothing. That's pretty much it. Oh, well, no, there is a B plot that I don't really like. This is the whole B plot with the other pregnant couple and the doula.
The doula, who I can't remember her name, the actress.
Harvest. Oh, the name of the actress. I can't remember the name of the actress.
But she's in Small Soldiers.
She is.
I was like, because I looked up, I was like, where do I recognize her from? I've seen her somewhere recently. And she's the mum in Small Soldiers.
I got to watch Small Soldiers again.
Such a good film.
My
God, it's such a good film.
I love Joe Dante. He might be one of my favorite directors.
It still holds up.
I love him, and I remember watching that movie over and over again as a kid. I really need to go and watch that again.
It is, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to go on so many tangents if we don't. Yeah, we need to keep it concise. Let's round it off. So Brad and Cindy, another couple that Niles and Daphne have kind of been friends with. I think they met through like a pregnancy friendship group or whatever, and they recommend a doula, and they're obviously they're sort of getting in touch with their spiritual side, and Brad is having like sympathetic pregnancy symptoms, so Niles kind of starts to play that up and pretends to. Yeah, it's very weird. They decide they're going to go with this doula and get in touch with their spiritual side as well, and do all this and whatnot, until the doula brings a videotape of Brad and Cindy's birth. Yeah. And you don't see anything, but it's just like screaming. Yeah. From this videotape. And they very quickly show the doula the door. Yeah. The doula door. Doula door. Yeah. They decide they will have a normal pregnancy, pumped full of drugs, and can't feel a thing, and get it over with as soon as possible. I can't comment. I've not ever been pregnant, nor been with someone who's been pregnant, so I don't know what these situations are like, but to me that sounds like a very reasonable line to take. I
don't think there's ever really any good reason to give birth without taking a lot of drugs first. I'm
not a doctor. I don't know what
that's true.
Risks are. No, I wasn't like disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
No, just to clarify before anyone gets upset at us, we're not trying to speak from any position of authority
absolutely
on this.
Not. Please do what's right for you.
Who are not doctors. So
parents.
So we know nothing about children or childbirth or pregnancy or anything.
But yes, from afar, from our distant point of view, yes, I think get that epidural, feel nothing,
get it, get that epidural,
you get that epidural. You know?
Oh man,
this episode's gone on too long. It's not. It's like we're on a normal time limit, and I'm just so tired, man.
Yep.
We're just hitting the rambling stage of the
we are, but it's fine. We're done now.
We are. So that's right. Match game. Doula what did I put? What? Why did I write a note about drug-induced route of pregnancy? Oh, I don't know.
Drug-induced route of pregnancy.
We got Harvest the doula, and we got Charlotte the matchmaker.
Yeah.
What do you think of them?
I really like Charlotte as a character. I think she's great. I think she's a lot of fun. I think Laura Linney's a great actress. I think she's very funny. I think we get really good kind of dramatic moments, but also a lot of very witty delivery of lines.
Yeah.
She's not necessarily a super kind of comedic actress where she's like being over the top and very funny. She doesn't really do like physical acting anywhere, but it's like very solid deliveries of these like witty, well-written lines.
Yeah.
So I love her as a character, and it's great seeing her introduced. Overall, not amazing. The dates are it's a good setup. It's not done especially well.
They definitely could have played up the dates as a lot more unlikable.
Yeah, they could have. They could have gone a lot further and been a little bit more off the wall and it probably would have paid off more. But it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
The B plot isn't great. It's 3.
A 3.
A 3.
I almost give it a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I weighed up giving it a 3.
Yep.
And I settled for a 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I should move it back up to a 3 or not.
What?
I don't know. I think I'm going to leave it at a 2.
Your instincts.
Because I think, yeah, you're right. Charlotte's great. Laura Linney's amazing. I think she's really like a great addition. I know it's so late in the game at this point.
Yeah.
But she is a great addition to the sort of recurring cast members.
Mm-hmm.
I like Harvest, the doula. I think she's quite funny.
Yeah.
Brad and Cindy are kind of irrelevant other than like introducing that plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the whole Niall. I hate the whole trope of when one of the main characters sees something in one of their friends, so they copy that and they start doing it as well. I hate that trope because it's so lazy.
Yeah.
So when Niles and Daphne like see Brad and Cindy going all spiritual and they immediately jump to do that as well.
Yeah. Just
to avoid admitting that they're not like that as people.
Mm-hmm.
I really hate that trope, so that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, it annoys me that Niles gives into. He even says, because they talk about like, oh, it's a sympathetic pregnancy. He's Brad's feeling Kuvod syndrome. Niles even points out like, yeah, that's a psychiatric thing.
Yeah,
that happens. He's not being judgy. He's not being judgy about it, but he's saying like, yeah, that's not just like a normal thing. There is a name for that. That's maybe you should talk about it. And then he just immediately goes into it because he feels like he should.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't experiencing it before or since, so he's kind of like playing it up.
Like
which is a weird thing especially for like a psychiatrist to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not keen on the B plot.
No. So I think Laura Linney saves it for me. I'll leave it at 2. I'll leave it at 2 for me, I think.
Fair enough.
Right. Highlight and then home time. I mean, I'm already home.
You're already home.
I'll send you home.
You'll send me home. Highlights. Man, I'm really not sure.
You've not got a whole lot to choose from in this disc, to be honest.
It's a bit of a difficult one. One that I like in Coots and Ladders, there's a delivery that I think is really funny, is when Frasier and Niles they've snuck into Opal's surprise party, and when they realize like, oh, they've still got the medal, they're just gonna like put it on the counter on their way out, and then there's the reveal that it's actually an Olympic bronze medal and they're going to take a picture with it as part of the party, and it's a whole thing, and Frasier doesn't clock it but Niles does, and Frasier's distracted talking about he's blowing smoke out his ass, talking about how great it is to be a local celebrity, and Niles is kind of trying to interrupt him like, Frasier, and he's like, no, not now, whatever, go away. And the way that Niles says like, Frasier, they're going to take her picture with her medal, and he goes, oh no. I just that is a little bit that gets me. I think that's maybe the kind of saving grace of that party scene, but it's a funny little
those kind of comedic chops that Kelsey Grammer and David Hyde Pierce have. Those little moments are great. It's always funny seeing the two of them acting in those kind of absurd scenarios. I'll give you that highlight from Coots and Ladders, even if I do hate the rest of the episode. I'm trying to think what I would give it to. I don't know. I really don't know. What have we got? I should have made a note of what my highlight would be before the episode.
I to be fair, I never do. I just make.
I usually think of it on the fly. Something. Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be able to suggest much from the first 3 episodes because I really don't like it. The first 3 episodes.
So this is a really obscure one, right? But I'm gonna roll with it. It's a really obscure one, but there's a scene in Freudian Sleep after Frasier has his second nightmare. he wakes up in the middle of the night, and it's a short, like, 3-second scene where Frasier wakes up and he realizes he's had another nightmare, and he says, like, oh, damn it. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about the way that he delivers that line that's really, like, I don't know, like, believable. There's something, like, you can really feel the, like, frustration and how upset the character is that he's had another nightmare. It's really obscure, and it really is so unimportant in the grand scheme of things.
I definitely wouldn't have picked that out, but now that you mention it, I can't think of that. And
but
it's like a very genuine bit of acting there.
Yeah, there's just something about the delivery of it that's really, every time I'm waiting for it, and I'm like, yeah, that's acting. You know? So yeah, there you go. I'm going to give a really obscure one this week, but that's my highlight for the disc.
Great.
Damn it. Yeah. Okay, well, we've managed to get through this episode.
We have.
We've gotten out the other side.
Oh, man.
Apologies, dear listeners. We are both having a bit of a time of it at the moment.
Oh, I know. It's been a long couple of days.
Yeah. We promised to be on form for our final episode.
I know.
Of Les Freres Heureux. No, it's coming up so soon. I think we will do a bonus episode afterwards, though. Will we Will we have a think of the?
Actually, I have a pretty solid plan for something that we can do afterwards. We have
pie charts.
Well, we have talked about doing like graphs and stuff like that, which I am still planning on doing.
Okay.
But I did specifically have an idea for how we could do it.
Okay.
Which I will run past you.
Yeah, let's do it behind the scenes.
When we're finished up.
Sounds good.
We'll get that.
So yeah, we will see you next week for the big finale. That's it. Well, I mean, kind of big finale, because we'll do a bonus episode.
Yeah.
Let's treat it as the big finale.
The big finale until the revival, if the revival ever does happen, and then we'll be back and we'll be talking about Nicholas Lyndhurst.
I do like Nicholas Lyndhurst.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's fine. Well, what's the order again? Have a good day, everyone. Have a great day, everyone. Good mental health, and thank you for listening. Man, I need a coffee or something. Yeah. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram @HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.